Welcome to the bomb shelter. I am your host this time, Jay No Name McDowell. And my co-host is
Kevin, also no name, Schumm.
Yeah, we went with no names because of the topic. We don't want the Men in Black to find out, find us based on our alter ego names and stuff. So we used our real names instead, so they can come right to our house.
Let me give you my address.
There you go. I live at. We warned you at the end of last year, the beginning of this year, that we were going to try a few different things on the show. We're still going to watch movies and talk about them and stuff, but we also wanted to touch on other things that we enjoy pop culture wise and just, in general. Nothing too terribly dry or crazy.
Yeah.
But just different things, like we might talk about comic books, or we might talk about toys we had or have.
Yeah,
as is
still
my
have.
Case.
Yeah. As we sit in a room full of toys.
Full of toys. So this time we're going to do our maiden voyage of this kind of topic, or this type of what's the word I'm looking for?
Alternate. I don't know. It's We're doing a podcast, but we're not doing our typical movie review type thing.
Our different way of doing this.
Yeah.
However that may be.
Yes.
So anyway, we are going to talk about podcasts today, but not just any podcasts.
Yes.
Because we both, Kevin and I, whether we do regularly or have in the past or may in the future, we have a lot of different subjects and podcasts that we like. I know you in the past have liked political type podcasts. I have a lot of music podcasts that I listen to, and some story podcasts, some local news podcasts, things like that.
Yeah.
By and large, though, the bulk of my podcast listening are paranormal podcasts, fringe, crazy, woo stuff.
And because of you, now 99% of my podcasts are that. Especially since I stepped away from, I needed a break from politics, and it was a nice, completely different type of subject.
Palate cleanser.
Yeah.
And the podcasts that I introduced Kevin to, though, are not what you would call, for the most part, sane.
Yeah.
They get a little crazy. They some more than others. Some tend to be a little, not skeptical, but at least they kind of cast a more thought out view of whatever phenomenon they're talking about at the time. So we're going to just run through a few of the ones, that I'm familiar with and that I've introduced Kevin to, and kind of talk about what we think about them, maybe some memorable episodes, things like that. So, since I'm the one who apparently corrupted Kevin,
Jay will be leading this one for sure.
Leading this one. So we're going to start off with, of course, not necessarily the granddaddy, but the best known paranormal show. Because let me step back a little bit. A lot of these podcasts are shows that are done live.
Yeah.
Most nights, or at least once a week, and then they put them out on podcast, and that's when we usually listen to them, because there's just no way to stay up all night listening to these things.
Yeah.
Art Bell, of course, he had been on the radio since '84, and he started off as a political. His show started off political, Coast to Coast AM. And then I guess he started taking a few phone calls about paranormal stuff and discovered that there was an audience for it, and was soon like the number one biggest overnight talk show host for years. He was known for some really, really weird shows, some really memorable people that he interviewed that would call in.
Yeah.
Things that would happen. He started off, of course, with Coast to Coast AM, and he would do that 6 nights a week. And then on Sundays, he had a show called Dreamland. And where Coast to Coast might be Bigfoot one night, and then might be a little bit of politics, and then might be some hard science, and then might be Loch Ness Monster or Ghost or something. Dreamland was pretty much all UFO stuff.
Okay.
And the the whole setup was the same as Coast to Coast. There was a call-in show.
Yeah.
You'd have guests and stuff. Several times, though, over his tenure with Coast to Coast, he would retire.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, things would happen. He had one incident. It turned out his son was being abused, not by him, but apparently by a teacher.
Yeah.
But he just abruptly was like, I got to quit, and didn't tell anybody. And when, I can't remember who it was, but someone tried to accuse him of abusing his son, he came out and let everybody know what it was.
Yeah.
Another time, he just said, I'm retiring, and was gone for a few months and then came back.
Yeah.
His wife passed away. His second wife passed away. And then about a month later, he married his, well, until a year ago, current wife.
Yeah.
Because he has, of course, passed away as of April of 2018.
Didn't he do a podcast from, I think he met his wife overseas, and didn't he do a podcast from there for a little bit?
Yeah, she is Filipino,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
and his wife Ramona was also.
Okay.
The controversy with Erin or Irene, depending on how you pronounce her name, not only was it about a month after his wife Ramona passed away, but she was also, I think he was 55 and she was like 18 or 19, 20. Yeah. So that was a little weird. But yeah, then he up and moved to the Philippines. He broadcast from there because he was mostly stationed in Pahrump, Nevada.
Yeah.
And he owned the radio station that he had. Before he had that, when Coast to Coast really started taking off, he was able to broadcast from his home studio. So he was usually at home doing it. But then he moved to the Philippines. He had a lot of problem with the lines going back and forth, and eventually moved back to Pahrump. He did, however, finally quit Coast to Coast totally. He had sold it to Premier Media or whatever their name is, and didn't like the direction they were wanting to take it. Locked horns with them. Said, "Fine, I quit." So he quit for a while, and then he came back on to Sirius XM with, I believe, with Dark Matters. He did that for a few months, and then he locked horns with Sirius because he wanted to, Sirius is a subscription service.
Yeah.
But he wanted to make it so there was a podcast available for people who couldn't get the subscription or didn't have the subscription, and they didn't want to. So he quit, but he had a non-compete clause. So for, I think it was about 2 or 3 years, he couldn't do anything. And then in 2015, I think it was, he announced Midnight in the Desert. He'd be returning on his own network, doing his own show. And that lasted for a few months, and then he claimed that somebody was shooting at his house and making threats, and so he just up and quit again and replaced himself with a very, very, very poor replacement, but we'll not go into that.
Okay.
That show has since been taken over by Dave Schrader, who he's been on for years and years and years. Good guy, good. He's always had a good show, but he's been taking the reins of that and doing pretty good with it. So, about Art Bell. I mean, did you ever listen to him?
The only time I've never listened to an Art Bell or translated to a podcast. I used to listen to him on a local AM station when I used to. I don't remember. At least one job I had, I worked at night. I used to listen to him most of my time I was at work. But yeah, my Art Bell experience is 100% from actual listening to him on the radio as it's being broadcast or rebroadcast. Cool.
Yeah. I had heard him on Coast to Coast probably in '98.
Okay.
And it was weird. For some reason, I woke up one morning about 3:00, and I turned the radio on, and I turned it to the AM switch. And at night, you can get AM stations from hundreds of miles away.
Yeah.
And I was getting some station from Utah.
Wow.
And I hear this guy telling these weird stories, and then it was before Y2K, and he was big into Y2K. Yeah. And he's telling people, you got to go and trade in and get gold, and because the market's going to crash, and the ATMs will be be down. You won't be able to get anything, and store up on food, and and shilling all these different prepper things. And I just was fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And once I had access to the internet and started reading about him, so I was like, I wish I could have heard him. And I think he was kind of off and on at that point.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get to listen to him live until he was on Midnight in the Desert.
Yeah.
And by then I think he was just kind of, I think he wanted to come back, but then was like, oh yeah, this is kind of tiring.
Yeah.
And,
you just don't have as much energy when you get older.
And he wasn't in good health and stuff. So
yeah.
The shows were good, but they weren't as great as the old ones. Have you ever heard any of the really famous calls? Or
I probably would, if you mentioned them, I probably would remember them. I don't have any specific memories of like, oh, that one show. Although, if they were brought up, I'd probably say like, oh yeah, I did listen to that.
Well,
one.
it's less shows, whole shows, because it was like 5 hours.
Yeah.
And more
like
certain calls that came in. Like, he had a call from one guy who said he was flying his plane over Area 51.
Okay.
And he was in like an ultralight, but he said, well, I painted a big red cross on it, so they'll think I'm a Red Cross. They won't shoot me down. And, sir, you shouldn't be flying over there. This is dangerous. And no, I'm going in. Oh, they're shooting at me. They're shooting at me. Oh no.
I don't remember that. I don't.
And then the line goes dead. He's like, oh well, I don't know what happened to him. There was another one where someone called in. They sound freaked out. He goes, I work at Area 51, and I've just got to tell somebody. I mean, the aliens, they're taking over, and they're getting. I have to let you know. And then all of a sudden the line goes dead, and you hear somebody go, it's like disconnect the line from A2 or something like that, and then it goes dead. And another time he was talking to somebody, about Area 51 probably, and then his whole show went off.
Yeah.
And he finally comes back and goes, oh, our satellite lost a link up and something's going on. And looking back at it now, more often than not, it was probably set up.
Yeah.
It was probably, a show put on and stuff. But it was so good.
Yeah.
And he never treated anybody like they were stupid. He'd get weirdo phone calls.
Yeah.
But he always gave everybody respect and treated them nicely, even though you knew he was kind of like, okay, whatever. How much he believed in this stuff, nobody knows.
Yeah.
But he put on a great show.
Yeah.
And he set the stage for a lot of other people to follow, some better than others.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely, it seems like he's sort of probably why most of the other people on our list are doing what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's so much easier now with being able to do podcasts and stuff.
You can do it. Yeah. Anyone can do it.
Yeah. You don't
like
have
we're doing this right now.
Yeah. You don't have to get a show on the radio to do it. You can, get it out to everybody.
I have no specific memory of a specific show, but I do remember that many times there was something about his show that even compared to some of the others that I'm listening to now, because I'm definitely not more mature now. I'm probably less mature.
Less mature now.
But I remember I'd get home. It'd be early in the morning because of my job at the time, and I would park, and then sometimes I'd be kind of scared to actually get out of the car and go into the house, just because there's that, kind of like when you're a kid and you're afraid to like get off your bed or run. You have to run to your bed and jump on.
Yeah, like,
it was sort of like that thing as an adult.
How bad do I have to pee?
Yeah, exactly. So I remember some nights getting home and thinking like, I don't really want to get out of my car.
Yeah, some of these I've listened to. Like, there was one I was listening to. I think it was Dave Schrader, and he was talking about black-eyed kids.
Oh yeah, they're scary.
And somebody was telling a story, and they're like, "Oh yeah, they came up to the door, and they, I see them through the window or something, and then all of a sudden, you hear this bang, bang, and at that time, exact time, in Bunker A, there's a cabinet behind Kevin, and there are some die-cast metal action figures in it. And one of them fell over and hit the glass, and I about jumped out of my skin.
Yeah.
It just was perfect timing. So if you can just go along with the fun and let your imagination go, whether or not you believe in this stuff, it's just fun.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, okay, is that Bigfoot going to eat me?
Yeah. Yeah, he made me afraid of things that I probably normally wouldn't be afraid of. So.
Yeah. Well, and he brought up things that people normally didn't think of anyway. So we have talked a lot about Art Bell, which I put in my notes.
Don't talk about him very much.
Keep it brief because everyone knows about him.
So maybe we'll shorten up the others.
We'll blaze through the others. Okay. Next up on our list is a gentleman by the name of Richard Serrett, who broadcasts out of Canada. He has a few shows of his own.
Yeah.
2 of them are conspiracy. One is more music-based, rock and roll-based conspiracy kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And he also does guest stints on Coast to Coast.
Yeah.
The shows that I told Kevin about were Conspiracy Unlimited, which is like, I think it's a weekly show, and then there's Conspiracy Show, which I think is no, it's the other way around. Conspiracy Unlimited is daily. Conspiracy Show is weekly. So he covers just about everything, but he has a little bit. He really, really, really likes Trump.
Yeah.
And whatever you think of him, it doesn't matter. But it tends to really bleed through into his show.
Even when there's not necessarily a good reason to bring up politics at all.
Yeah. He'll have people on who will, be telling whatever story they're telling. And then it's, and then they're out to get President Trump. It's like, well, okay, where'd that come from?
Yeah, let's stick to Bigfoot,
Yeah. Keep topic at hand.
Yeah.
So I think you told me you like his show.
I like his show just because it's so, you don't have to think a lot. I can kind of just have it going on in the background, and not saying it's not good, but I just mean it's kind of anything goes on the show. He doesn't seem to disagree or argue with anyone. It's sort of like if someone says, well, this and this and this, he'll say like, okay, yeah.
Which I kind of don't like that. I mean, Art Bell was pretty good. Going back to him, he was good about just anybody could say anything, and he would very rarely back down. Sometimes you go, well, come on. Yeah. Richard Serrett, though, everything is to me.
That's a great theory.
Yeah, it seems like he'll pretty much just go along with anything, which whether or not he believes it, that's beside the point. And I don't want somebody who's going to fight with the guest all the time. But it's nice if sometimes they question them, or well, how can you back up what your claims are? What kind of proof do you have? So sometimes, excuse me, I'm possessed. So sometimes that rubs a little bit, wears on me a little bit. But all in all, not a bad show, and he does cover a wide variety of weird stuff.
You never know what the next one's going to be about.
I have frequently turned it off just because sometimes it gets people who are so wacky, crazy out there that I'm just like, I can't listen to this much insanity. I do like him, but the one, and this is just personal for me, the one thing that really gets to me is when he'll bring someone on who he will call, or they will call themselves like a biblical scholar. Yeah. And then they'll say, well, in the book of Revelations, and I'm like, you're a biblical scholar, but you don't know what the book is called. It's called Revelation, or the Revelation. It's the Revelation of John. Yes. But they'll call it Revelations. I'm like, okay, I no longer care about anything you're talking about because you don't even know what the name of the book is that you're trying to tell me about. Yeah. I can't remember what the show was. It may have been one of the ones we're going to talk about here soon. But they were interviewing 2 guys who were making an ET documentary, an extraterrestrial, not ET, the creature, the movie. And one of them mentioned the Drake equation, which, look it up, it's interesting. But he said, we're based this on the Drake equation by Sir Francis Drake. And I'm like, nope. Okay, Sir Francis Drake was an explorer from like the Middle Ages. Okay, we're turning this one off. If you can't get basic details like that down, something you could Google. Like it's not like you don't have to be like have a degree in the topic to know this. This is something you could just find out easily. Yeah, and especially because the Drake equation is thrown around so much in UFO lore that it's a simple thing to get right. So stuff like that. Next on our list. And this is one of my favorite shows simply because the host he believes, but he doesn't swallow everything.
Yeah.
He's willing to cast a little bit of a skeptical eye at things and kind of question things. Radio Mysterioso, hosted by Greg Bishop. And he covers some little bits here and there, but he focuses a lot on UFO.
Yeah.
And alien conspiracy. The one thing I really like about the show is there's no ads.
Yeah.
So it might be a 2.5 hour long show, but it is a solid 2.5 hours. Yeah. And where some shows feel like you're just listening to someone interview someone, or even worse, you feel like you're an outsider and they're all talking, and you're just listening in, but you're not part of the group. The way he interviews it makes it feel like you're kind of there, even if you're not communicating. You're kind of there and can kind of, I don't know, you don't feel like such an outsider listening to it. He gets people who are really knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. Even though, when somebody says they're a UFO expert, well, there's no metric for that really, other than you call yourself a UFO expert. Yeah. But he does get a lot of people who are knowledgeable and who can look at it from a more balanced point of view.
I think so too.
Now I think you said you've only listened to one or two.
I've only listened to one or two of him so far, so I don't have much to say, but I do. I really liked what I did listen to.
Yeah.
I think part of it is that you've introduced me to so many that I haven't quite had time to whittle down like what I do and don't like yet. Yeah. Because I'm trying to give all of them a chance, and I'm slowly like, okay, I like this, I like that.
Yeah. Well, and initially they all kind of sound alike too, because they all tend to be, especially if you get somebody who's doing a circuit, they've got a new book or a new movie, and they all hit the same. Yeah.
You hear the same person.
And that I tend to, once I hear them once, I'll skip it. Yeah. When it comes on, even if I really like the show. Yeah. The only drawback to Radio Mysterioso is, since Bishop does it pretty much on his own. Yeah. The release schedule is really hit and miss. Okay. So it's a good thing it's 2 hours plus, because you get lots of show, but you don't get it every week. Okay. It's the only bad thing. Okay. But it's really good. Highly recommend. And the language can get a little bit gruff too, but we're big boys here, so we can handle it. Another one that I really, really like, and they're kind of in the same vein of Radio Mysterioso, is Mysterious Universe. And it comes out of Australia. It's hosted by Benjamin Grundy and Aaron Wright. And they'll get some really, really weird stuff. Yeah. And sometimes they just start busting up because it's so insane. And other times they do believe in some stuff that happens, but they'll call out the just really, really weird stuff. Definitely, yeah. And they really like to call out, like, the new agey kind of stuff like that. But they get a lot of good information, and a lot of they put it forth in a way that's entertaining to listen to. Yeah,
they clearly do their homework, as much as you can on some of these topics. They really look into it. It's not, off the top of their head type of thing, like
we do.
Yeah, like we're doing right now. Yeah, but it's real clear that they've studied the specific topic they're talking about, and they know the dates, the names, and everything.
Yeah, they'll get books and stuff, and they'll say, we read this book, and here's what it said, and give you a good overview. My only gripe is that they have the free podcast, and then they have the Plus subscription. Yeah, and I don't mind podcasts having a subscription section. Yeah. But it drives me nuts, because they'll be like, okay, and it's this A, B, C, O, and we'll talk about D, and in the plot. And it's like,
you never get to hear to
hear the end of the story. And it's like, I'm not paying for this.
Well, that's how they get their money, though.
It is, and I can understand that. Yeah. But I don't have $9 a month to to spend to find the end of the show. Yeah. But have you given them a good listen?
Yeah, I listened to several of theirs, and they're one of the ones where I have to have time to actually listen to what they're saying. They cannot be going on in the background while I'm working or doing something else. I have to be paying attention. Yeah. So I have to plan those out. Those are sort of my, I'm going to listen to this one.
They have one subject, one topic. Yeah. and they stick with it. They don't kind of mean it's not like a call-in show where
next
it's
we're
like,
going to talk about this guy about that.
Yeah, next caller. Okay, well, I'm talking about the Bigfoot in my backyard. Okay, next call, I'm talking about the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah. It's we read this book or we interviewed this person or we've got this topic and they go through. So yeah, you do really have to listen to it. It's not really good background.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
great nonetheless. I'm going to change the order here.
Okay.
Because I really want the last one to be the last one. One that I recently found myself and got Kevin to start listening to is Spaced Out Radio, hosted by Dave Scott out of Canada. It's very much potpourri of paranormal. That'd be an awesome name for a show.
Yeah.
Potpourri of paranormal. There we go.
Note to self.
Copyright. It's a few hours long usually. The podcast is. When they get out all the commercials, like maybe 2.5 hours. So, but they cover just about anything. I like Dave Scott because he's pretty agreeable.
Yeah.
But he'll ask questions, even though if it may not be, I don't believe you, so please explain yourself.
Yeah.
But it might be, well, wait a second. If this is this, then how do you explain that?
Yeah, he kind of asks the questions that you at home might be asking. Like, okay, this, whether I believe this or not, at least makes sense of what you're saying. And he'll kind of like try to fix that.
Yeah, because sometimes some of these guests can get really, really, they just start getting out there.
Yeah.
And he'll reel them back in and kind of go, okay, well, explain this a little more though.
Yeah.
Or, you know what, okay, I have my point of view on this, convince me otherwise kind of thing. But he's always pleasant. He's always good with the guests.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun on occasion to hear shows where they kind of tie up with a guest.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I like him just to
he's
conduct
currently
themselves.
I think he's currently my favorite of the ones I'm listening to. And I'm not counting Art Bell because he's not around anymore.
Yeah. And if you want to, if you do a search for Art Bell.
Oh yeah.
I think on TuneIn Radio on the app, there's a few stations that just play randomly.
Yeah, and I know that's out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you look on YouTube too, there's some that people put up, and they'll sometimes do just like a best of, so you can find all the really good calls and stuff. So so there you go. Our last one.
Yeah.
I have listened to them off and on because I'd listened to them, and then after a while, it's like I can't take this anymore.
Me too.
And so I'd unsubscribe, and then I'll come back to it. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
Yeah.
It is one of the craziest shows, but it is the most like Coast to Coast used to be.
Yeah.
He'll have a topic, and he talks with his echo thing. It sounds like he's recording in the bathroom all the time.
I didn't know if that was just me or if you've noticed
that too.
Yeah. Or I even wondered, is he like putting, because I could technically on this podcast, I could put an effect on it afterwards if I wanted. But I always wonder, is it real or is he doing something? I don't know.
I hear it. So
yeah,
and I think I've listened to him on live, and I think
it's there too.
It's there too.
Okay.
He'll have a topic, and then he'll kind of sometimes have a guest, but he'll kind of do an open lines almost. But it'll be an open lines, but people talking on topic.
Yeah.
And man, he gets the weirdest people.
Yeah.
I swear a good portion of them have a still in the backyard. You just know they've been hitting that.
Yeah.
And then they call them up, and one of the recent shows he was discussing the unfortunate incident in New Zealand, the shooting. And he had people calling and saying, well, I saw the video and I, it's a conspiracy because I didn't see the bullets flying, the casings flying out. And he's like explaining, it's like, because he'll kind of correct people too. As crazy as he gets, he will kind of inject some semblance of, no, this is why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
So he was trying to explain to him, people were one person, it was disturbing. They go, well, in my experience, when people are shot and die, they normally do. And I'm like, you've shot and killed people before?
Or you've been around it a bunch for some reason?
Hello, FBI?
Yeah.
Can we trace this call? But this one woman called in, and she was from Alabama, and she talked like this the whole time, and she was probably in her like 60s or 70s, and she's like, well, statistically speaking, 1 in 4 people are carrying a gun. He goes, this was in New Zealand, not in America. Well, but statistically speaking, they should be, well, but they're not.
But they're not.
And he goes, well, what would you do if you're in? Well, they just curl up and died. And I wouldn't. I'd kick butt. And he's like, but you have a gun pointed at you. Well, there's strength in numbers. We'd all rush him. He goes, he had machine guns.
Yeah.
And he keeps trying to point this out. And with her, he was still trying to be a little bit polite.
Yeah.
Others, he gets into like junior high level name calling and talking and all but sticking his fingers in his ears and going, la, 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 la.
That's
la,
when I tend to, when he starts arguing with people, even if I kind of agree with him, that's sometimes when I actually think like, okay, I think I'm done with this episode, and I'll turn it off.
Yeah, or I'll at least forward past it, because I think he has something wrong with his phones, though, because a lot of times people start talking and then he tries to say something and they
can't hear him.
Yeah,
or something.
So I wonder if there's something where it doesn't.
Yeah.
The speaker doesn't disconnect or something, but like an old speaker phones, it used to do that. But yeah, then there's times when he'll keep it going, and it's like, okay, dude, point made. My biggest complaint with this show is it's 5 hours long.
Yep.
So when it calls down in the podcast, and when I listen to it and it's 3 hours.
Yeah.
But he has a tendency to, okay, we're going to commercial. Comes back, and then he repeats the exact same thing.
You'll hear the same thing again.
Yeah.
Like a review of what you just heard.
Yeah. And then commercial, and then he'll repeat it again. And it's like, I think it's because, well, there are people who haven't listened to the whole 5 hours. Some markets, the first couple hours get cut.
Yeah.
So I understand what he's doing, but it's really obnoxious.
Yeah, maybe they should cut the podcast down even more, considering that when you're listening to a podcast, you're just listening to it straight through. Like, maybe just cut out even a little bit more of the review or something.
I don't know. Or at least just continue on from where it ended, and not, okay, let me recap everything up until we talked.
Yeah.
The last, until we ended the last time.
And I found myself kind of fast forwarding until I think I hear him talking about something new information.
Yeah, because after a while it's just like, okay, dude, got it. That, and he fixates on certain words or phrases.
Yeah.
He'll find one, and then he uses that every time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, more words.
Yeah.
Got to find different ones. But it's fun to listen to. Like I said, he's the most like the old Art Bell show, except that he's a little more abrasive and not always as I don't want to say kind, but
I know,
but not always as just kind of easygoing with the callers.
He'll call people names and stuff like that.
And granted, people call in and
they probably deserve it sometimes.
Yeah. But
sometimes I almost wish he would just cut them off, just say, you know what, I'm done with this, and turn it off, instead of like arguing for several minutes and then start calling them names, and then coming back from the break, he's still calling them names. Yeah,
and still talking about it. And it's like, okay, we
let it go.
Let it go.
You disagree with him? Maybe I do too.
Yeah,
that's fine. Not everyone agrees on everything.
The thing he was doing the other night with the New Zealand thing was, people were saying that it's what's called, they were calling it a false flag, which they were using the wrong definition. A false flag is an actual thing, where a person, a country, whatever, does something under the guise of someone else to blame that person and get sympathy for themselves. So like, it comes from the days of pirates. Yeah. And basically they would come up and they'd fly a Union Jack, the British flag, and people think, oh, okay, well they're friendly. And then they'd pull up and, nope, we're pirates, and kill them. And so that's what a false flag actually is. And we've done false flags. Our government has done false flags. And it's underhanded, but that's the definition of it. And it's something that happens. What these people were calling in or saying was, it didn't happen. This New Zealand thing didn't happen. And he kept trying to say, well, that's not a false flag.
Yeah.
But instead of saying, here's the definition of it,
Yeah.
and going with that, he just kept arguing with people.
And I didn't listen to that episode, but it sounds...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had one guy go, well, I know you don't like the term. He goes, it's not, he finally said, he goes, it's not that I don't like the term. You're using it incorrectly. Yeah. But because the way he comes off, instead of, I'm trying to explain it to you, it comes off as, stop using saying it wrong, blah, 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 you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. He gets a little Alex Jonesy, which I guess he used to kind of ally himself with him. And I can't stand Alex Jones. That's just a whole nother.
I don't think I've ever listened to him.
You don't want to listen to him. He's awful. He's the one who, after Sandy Hook,
I know who he is. Yeah, I just don't think I've ever.
Horrible, horrible human being. So it gets a little bit of that vibe though on his show, and that's when I kind of fast forward through things. So good show, but
for all the complaints, I just keep coming back to him though.
Yeah. The thing that scares me the most with his show is every once in a while I start going, kind of makes sense. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. It's happening. Yeah. But I know a recent show, because I meant to ask you with the other ones, but you really haven't listened to enough to
I haven't listened to enough to pick out certain ones yet.
But he was talking about the Momo thing, which don't look it up if you don't know what it is, because it's pretty creepy. Yeah. Basically, it's a Momo challenge, and it's kids are apparently watching YouTube videos. Yeah. And then this creepy looking thing, and it was a art piece from Japan, but it's this woman with giant eyes and a big like Joker smile, and her body is a chicken, like chicken legs and stuff, and it's creepy. But apparently, it tells kids, "I can see you, I know what you're doing, so do this, that, and the other, or I'll kill you." And this is probably hyperbole, but apparently it's been causing kids to hurt themselves and stuff. And it was just creepy, the things he was talking about. And people were calling up and saying, my kids are watching videos. They're watching these innocent little videos. And these things come up, like this guy telling kids how to slit their wrists the proper way. And it's just, I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, this is really creepy. Yeah. This is, But then again, I started going, why am I agreeing with this guy? Yeah. or why am I giving this guy any, like, oh, you know what? So, maybe I need to back away from Clyde Lewis a little bit. Yeah.
Thankfully for me, I don't tend to listen to any of these at night. I'm listening to them in the morning when I'm getting ready on the way to work. And then sometimes while I'm doing things at work, some of these I'm able to listen to in the background. So I'm not usually in a situation where I'm going to tend to get scared, like, I better go lock the door. I'm usually like brushing my teeth or whatever. So it's not, I'm not in a situation that lends itself towards being scared usually.
Yeah. I've had a few episodes where I'll have to go lock up for the night. Yeah. And the blinds will be open. I'm like, okay, just don't look out the window while you're closing it. Close it quick. Yep. And just don't look. Then you're safe.
Well.
So, are we at our break?
We're a little past our break.
A little past. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take our break.
Take a break. We're going to come back with something a little more, less about other people's shows and more about us.
Yeah.
All right. Yay. We will be back.
We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of the stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmer's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk and as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit. About 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain's conferring with someone. Can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. Now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those preachers know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute, something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the wood.
Welcome back. We hope we haven't, scared you too much or turned you on to other podcasts where you turned this one off and went and listened to them. Go listen to them later.
Yeah.
Go look them up and listen to them later. They're well worth a listen, but finish ours first. Part of the reason we both enjoy these shows is we both, whether or not we believe in any of this stuff, we both find it fascinating.
Yep.
And it's stuff that as kids terrified us, as adults apparently still terrifies us. But it's that looking, just like, I don't like heights.
Yeah.
But I will still look over the edge just a little bit and get that feeling of vertigo and go, okay, don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
so
makes
that's
sense.
kind of what this is like. This, you're still tempting. You don't like it, but you're tempting it.
Yeah.
So what are some of the topics that you enjoy the most on these shows?
I always like
maybe your top topic. What do you
top
think?
topic? Probably. I like them all, but I think and this is really, I've told you about this before, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but probably UFOs.
Okay.
And whether there's a encounter with an actual like alien itself, or if it's just, I saw this ship fly by, or I saw something weird, that tends to get me the most out of everything. But I do enjoy ghosts, Bigfoot, all that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that tends to be the one that interests me the most, and I'll say it right now, which is weird because actually out of Bigfoot, ghosts, and UFOs, I'm more skeptical about UFOs than the others, than most of the other topics, which I think we're going to differ on a lot of these actually.
Yeah. Because I tend to be far more open-minded.
Yeah.
Not to the point where I believe everything or don't kind of go, well, wait a second, and put any critical thinking into it. The universe is a big place.
Yeah.
I believe wholeheartedly there's other life out there.
Yeah.
And there's other intelligent life, whether it's been here or not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the part. Well, personally, I think the chance of there being other intelligent life is just, this is my own opinion. And I know most people probably disagree with me, but I think it's 0 or close to 0. But the biggest problem I have is that they could get to us to where we could see one of their UFOs or have an encounter with one. That's the part where I'm just like, no way.
Well, and that's one of the things on these shows that always kind of bothers me is there's no proof either way.
Yeah.
Okay. But, and a lot of these believers like to say, well, absence of proof isn't proof of absence, which is true.
Yeah.
But whenever the narrative changes. So when you say, okay, when back in the 50s, oh, well, the UFO landed in my yard. Well, how did it get here? Where did they say they were from? Well, from Venus. Okay, well, there's no life on Venus.
They're not from Venus,
there's nothing can live on Venus.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're Martians. Well,
nope.
Mars is pretty bad off, too.
Yeah.
Well, they're from Alpha Centauri. Well, that's like 4.5 light years away.
Yeah.
How did they get you? You even travel at the speed of light. It'd take them 4 years to get here. And that we know of, nothing can travel at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Maybe it can for them.
And maybe there's things we don't know about yet. That's definitely possible.
And then it turns into, well, I saw this one and they were from, this other one that's, 1 billion light years away. Well, how would they get here?
Yeah.
They can't get here. Oh, well, they're transdimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, how do you explain that? And it keeps going. And the same thing with Bigfoot. The big thing right now is the reason that you can't find a Bigfoot, you can't find a body, can't find anything, is that Bigfoot is a transdimensional being that can phase in and out of reality, and that he's actually an alien. It's like, really? So you're trying to prove an unknown with an unknown, which you can't do. That's not proof. So that kind of irritates me. I love entertaining the thought of there's some race or species of big hairy, North American ape that lives up there and could feasibly, stay hidden. I love doing that. I love entertaining the thought of a UFO coming in. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in Close Encounters is that after Richard Dreyfuss has his first encounter and he's driving and you see his his car on the road, and then you just see the big
blackness,
ship.
right?
Yeah, and it's just going over, and it's silent, but you see it block out the stars.
Yeah,
and I love that.
Me too.
And entertain, the thought of ghosts.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're spirits, one theory I've heard, and it's kind of interesting, is that we're seeing time slips.
Yeah.
Basically, when we see a ghost, they might be seeing us and thinking they're seeing a ghost.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
You can't prove it's not. You can't prove it is, but it's just fun to think about. So, my favorite too, though, is probably UFOs and stuff, and probably the one that scared me the most.
It definitely, and I was just thinking, like, it's weird. It's almost backwards order. I think that out of all of those things, it's hard to say. It depends on your definition of ghost, whether I say I could believe it in or not.
Yeah.
But Bigfoot, I don't think there's any reason why there couldn't be Bigfoot. Maybe that's the best way of me saying it. Like, it's not like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy. Well, there's lots of things that are Bigfoot-like that exist.
Well, and
we find new things all the time.
Yeah, we've discovered large mammals.
And as much as we like to think that the world is sort of like, there's not a lot of room and we know everything. I mean, there's areas where no human beings go for ever, or for at least really long periods of time. So I mean, that one's the one that I find the most possible, yet he scares, out of, if we're going to say ghost, Bigfoot, and UFOs, he scares me the least. Unless I'm out in the woods, then he's the scariest. But I have to be in a situation. Ghosts don't really scare me that much, although if I watched a scary ghost movie and then told me I had to walk around in an old haunted house, of course I'm going to be scared. But UFOs scare me the most, even though they're
the one you believe the least.
I believe in that the least. I don't think anything's impossible. But on that scale, they're at the bottom of my believability.
Maybe that's your defense mechanism.
Maybe
I don't believe in them.
Yeah.
So because I'm terrified.
Because I'm too scared of them. Yeah. I think part of it is though that, well, I mean, ghosts could do the same thing, but if aliens are real, you're not safe. From Bigfoot, I'm not afraid of Bigfoot when I'm in my house. Yes. When I'm in your house, I'm not afraid of Bigfoot because you don't usually see Bigfoot walking down the street with,
in my subdivision.
In a subdivision. Yeah. You think of him in the woods, which I do kind of live in the woods now. So he is kind of scary, but in general, it's kind of like, I'm not afraid of a shark right now, but if I'm in the ocean, I'm going to be thinking about sharks.
Yeah.
And I guess ghosts could be anywhere, but again, in a more modern house, like we're sitting in right now, it's not the typical, except for Poltergeist. Yeah, it's not the typical setting for a ghost story. Whereas aliens can come get you anywhere.
And it's
anytime,
pretty much
day, night,
city. When you think
country.
about like the alien invasion movies and stuff, there's nowhere really. Yeah. They come and they do their thing,
and they're so powerful. Like Bigfoot, technically, you could probably hide in a vault, and as powerful as Bigfoot is, he's not going to be able to get in there. Ghosts can probably go through a wall, but aliens are so above our they would have
if
to
they
be
could get here,
then they're so above our technology, there is no place to hide.
Yeah.
I think that's why they scare me so much.
I could see that.
They're like the ultimate monster, if that's okay to say.
For me, I think it's just the weirdness of them, the alienness of them, because even watching the videos, even if I know they're totally hoaxed, it still gives me the creeps when they look in those big eyes and that big head and stuff. Back in the 50s, they had the Nordics, and the Nordics still are in UFO lore. Yeah. But the ones that were from Venus, the Space Brothers. Yeah. And they looked like us. Yeah. So, in fact, there was one, his name was Valiant Thor. Huh. And there are pictures of him. Yeah. And he was a flesh and blood individual, but looked like a blonde guy. Yeah. And they're like, no, he's an alien. It's like, yeah. Really? Yeah. Yeah. Got anything to back that up with?
They are so unknown too. Because at least with Bigfoot, you can say maybe he's interdimensional. With ghosts, you sort of have an idea, like either they're going to be nice or they're going to be not nice. They're going to. Yeah. But with an alien, you don't know. Like. Yeah. You might, just going based on movies, there's all kinds of aliens.
Or are you getting a xenomorph?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many different versions. There's, they could be intending to be completely harmless and could still be, if they thought of us as we think of ants or something like that, they're not intentionally trying to, like if I accidentally step on an ant, I'm not trying to terrify the ant.
Yeah.
It's just an accident. And we may be so, if they existed, we might be so nothing in comparison to them, they don't even notice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with that, but I go back to, because like in Star Wars, one of my favorite scenes in the original Star Wars is the cantina.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, though, the band scared me.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, those look like Greys,
Yeah.
And so they always freaked me out. I loved all the other ones.
Yeah.
But
there's something about that look, though.
Yeah.
Which almost makes you think, if there are aliens, or at least ones that visit our planet, that's probably what the ones that visit our planet look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So maybe there's a reason we have a little visceral response to them.
After this podcast tonight, and it's dark,
we've got a spare room here.
No, I was gonna say I have to drive about a half an hour or so.
Yeah, into the woods,
into a dark house.
And I got news for you.
Yeah,
Bigfoot, Sasquatch have been spotted around Big Bear.
I know. I've been looking online.
There's even been one in Cherry Valley.
Yeah,
they've seen something up there. So yeah, you're your host.
Yeah,
sorry.
And aliens love areas like that too.
Oh yeah, because who's going to believe you?
Yeah. Ghosts are the least scary where I live, because it's a fairly modern house and a fairly, there's no old.
I don't know. Your area. I mean, my dad lived up there.
That's true. So it's been around for a while.
My
actual house is newer, but the area is.
But did they move the bodies, or did they just move the headstones?
They just the old cemetery is built upon. We just kind of like knocked them down. We didn't even care. We just built right on top.
Built right on top.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, aliens just always...
They're the worst for me, for sure.
Yeah, and I remember having, nightmares of Bigfoot.
Yeah.
In Search Of always freaked me out,
Yeah.
all the different things. But, yeah, and I think it's kind of like you said, there's really nowhere to hide, and there's no... Contrary to what movies have shown us, I'm not going to probably be one of the survivors fighting with the resistance. I'm probably going to be one of the first ones taken out,
Yeah.
So,
and the others tend to, like I said before, the others tend to be isolated. Like, typically the story isn't, well, I was sitting in my house doing nothing, and suddenly Bigfoot knocked down my wall and ran in and killed my brother.
Yeah.
Usually it's, I'm out in the woods and maybe Bigfoot thought you were in his territory or something, something like that. Or a ghost. Usually ghosts, according to the stories at least, this is their house. They don't want you in it. Or they're trying to get revenge on this situation that happened to them when they were alive.
But they do attach too.
They do attach to people.
Attach,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, in general, it's sort of like, I think you can kind of avoid.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. If you don't want to be terrified by a ghost, you stay out of the haunted house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if the ghost comes, then you say, okay, I'll move. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then you move.
Yeah. If you don't want to run into Bigfoot, you stay out of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
But you could be walking down the street. I could go in my backyard.
Yeah.
Be hit by a beam of light and then,
that's it.
Probed. So, no fun.
Nothing against people who like to be probed, but.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to include everyone.
Okay. Sure.
Right.
Wasn't going to go there, but okay. Ghosts, though, yeah. Yeah, because you just hear about ghosts, just, you hear a whisper or something, knocks something off the wall or you feel a tap on your shoulder, something like that. So it's weird, it's unnerving, but usually, unless it's a poltergeist, which I'm going to show my paranormal nerdiness, more and more quote-unquote experts are saying that poltergeists aren't necessarily spirits.
Yeah.
But they tend to happen when there's an adolescent, pre-adolescent, going into adolescent child, usually a girl.
Yeah. And
their hormones are raging and things are going crazy, and then it manifests itself as what we call a poltergeist.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a noisy ghost. I don't know.
Yep.
All I know is I saw the movie and it freaked me out.
It is a scary movie. One sort of related, technically they're not related, but one thing that's similar to a ghost is a demon. And those tend to scare me a little bit because
those could be anywhere too.
Those could be anywhere also, and they don't necessarily, like a ghost might say, get out of my house, or you know, you
Or
killed
I'm lonely and I just want to be friends with you.
Yeah. Whereas a demon would only have, they're not there to joke around and
malicious.
goof around. They're there to hurt people and
Yeah.
whatever. So they kind of scare me, and my believability on them is a lot higher than definitely ghosts.
Given our own faith and everything too, we do believe that there are demons, whether or not they're in red suits and pitchforks and stuff.
Yeah, but I believe they exist. It just depends on what the way that shows itself.
Yeah, that manifests itself. Yeah, definitely. You know, there's more than we can see and that we know. You know, so
And one creepy thing about all of these topics is that there's even some theories that UFOs and aliens might just be demons.
Yeah,
which
that's becoming more prominent.
Really, really scares me too, because that gets my two scariest topics and combines them into one.
Two tastes that do not go great together. Yeah, I've been hearing that one more and more lately. People also said, because you see mentions of not necessarily the words UFO. Yeah. But you see strange things in paintings from the Middle Ages and in stories and things. Yeah. And those aren't really explained as other than maybe it's just an artifact. Maybe it was supposed to be God going by or something, but it looks like a UFO. Yeah. But there are stories of what back then they called fairies. They called
I was just going to ask you if you heard of this. It really scares me.
Yeah. And
the gray fairies?
Well, I don't know if I've heard of gray fairies, but
let me tell you. When you're finished, I'll tell you about gray fairies.
Okay. So, but like fairies and demons, and then as we've gotten away from our belief in fairies and things, then it's, they're aliens.
These things are still around. Now what are we going to call them?
Yeah.
Right?
And basically that's the theory that's what's happened is basically they're demons and they're trying to do, they're trying to be malicious. Yeah. But we just call them by a different name now. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and that totally would make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things are like that, yeah. So the gray fairies. Okay. So, and this is something I would look more into. I only have listened to a few podcasts and looked up online a few of these things, but apparently there's a lot of different things that people would have classified as fairies a long time ago when when some people did believe in fairies. Yeah. And one type of fairy was what they called a gray fairy. And what did gray fairies do? They had these flying machines and they come down and take people away and do things to them and then bring them back. Which kind of sounds like something else that's gray.
I don't know. I can't put my finger on.
When I heard that, it just creeped me out so much because they were talking about like stories from like a really, really long time ago about fairies. I'm like, that's just an alien.
I've never heard of those.
You need to look it up and then be terrified.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't want to sleep tonight.
Apparently they had flying machines. They didn't fly on their own. They had machines to fly. And they'd come abduct people. I don't know if they use that word, but they basically kidnap people, do things to the people, and then bring them back.
Well, that's the fairy folklore was that they would take you. Yeah. They would try and get you to eat something, because if you ate something they gave to you, they gave to you, they could take you. Yeah. And they would take you to their land, and they weren't Tinkerbell. Yeah. Fairies were not nice.
And that's what I always think nowadays, at least for me, I think of a fairy like a Tinkerbell type of funny, goofy little fun thing.
Little girl with wings.
Yeah, but that's not what they always were.
No, they were pretty mean. They were pretty nasty. Yeah. And great. Now I got like gray fairies.
Gray fairies. But and I don't want this to only be about that, but that's the one thing. I don't remember which podcast, it may have been one on our list or not. I haven't had enough experience to like compartmentalize this, but somewhere on one of these podcasts recently I've listened to that, and it's been the scariest new thing in my life in the past month or so. Gray fairies.
Mine was the Black-Eyed Kids.
That's my number 2. Yeah.
That was just terrifying going back to what we've talked about, you don't know how many of these people are calling in just making up a good story.
Because I could call in and make up some scary story.
I have honestly thought of doing it and just seeing what I could get away with. Yeah. And how much, because I'm good at doing that. Yeah. But I just, when I do that to people, I like to just I started off in grounded with a good foundation, and then I just start adding things to it. Yeah. And just get it weirder and weirder to see how far.
Start off
people
somewhere
will
where
go.
everyone could believe it, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, okay, I had in high school, I'd come in to class, and there was this girl there, and I had a huge crush on her.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did this to her, but
Yeah.
it apparently didn't win me any points. But we were sitting there in a homeroom or something, and I said, "Jay, hear the story about the little boy last night?"
Oh, no.
And she goes, "No, what happened?" And I said, "Well, there was this little boy in some town, and he loved chewing bubble gum. And he had gotten some bubble tape, a whole roll. And for those of you who don't know what bubble tape is, it was flat gum that was rolled up, and it was a 6-foot long piece of gum." And I said, "Well, he was chewing. He got the whole thing in his mouth and was chewing it." And so his parents come in and they say, "Hey, it's time to go to bed. Take the gum out of your mouth. Go brush your teeth, stuff." Well, apparently he didn't take the gum out of his mouth, because the next morning the parents found him, and the gum had lodged in his throat, and he exhaled, and he had a big bubble coming out of his mouth and 2 coming out of his nostrils. And this girl just hooked.
Yeah.
And just, "Oh, that's horrible."
Yeah.
And I'm just going, really?
Yeah.
The point at sticking 6 feet of gum in your mouth should have been the big red flag, but I just kept it going. And so I love doing that. So I've actually have thought of calling and doing that, just to see what
that
I
would
can
be
get away
fun.
with.
And I think a lot of the people calling in may or may not be. I mean, it's just almost, some of them I think sometimes you can kind of tell, like, I think they're making that up, but a lot of them you can't tell, or maybe they're just kind of crazy and they may honestly believe it themselves.
A lot of them are just mentally ill, and that's the bad thing about some of these shows. Is they kind of feed that in people, and it's not a healthy thing for people. It just sometimes it goes a little too far. It's like, well, you shouldn't be calling a call-in show. You should be calling a mental health professional. So, but you get some good stories out of it.
Yeah.
So, are we there?
I think we're about the end of our typical where we like to leave off time allowance. I know the one lesson I learned from tonight, or from this podcast, is that I'm really afraid to go home tonight, but I'm going to, because I have to get up early and go somewhere else.
Well, that's if you make it.
If I make it, yeah.
If you aren't abducted by a Bigfoot ghost.
If I'm abducted by UFOs, I'll just ask them to drop me off where I need to go tomorrow morning.
Well, that'd be nice of them to do.
Yeah. But then they have to come get me too afterwards.
And let me just say, my wife just opened the door to the room, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up because I heard this little clicking and clacking and got ourselves all worked up.
I know.
So thanks a lot. So that's my takeaway now. I'm terrified of the door opening. Great. One more thing to add to the list. So, okay. This didn't entirely go off without, hitches, but...
Yeah, but it's something new we tried.
Yeah. So we'd like to try and do some more. So,
yeah.
Not like y'all have left messages about anything else.
Yeah.
Other than the one person who didn't like Bigfoot.
Something. So, as far as we know, this might be great.
Yeah, we'll never know because nobody ever tells us.
We have some really, what we think, exciting ideas of mobile podcasts, like going out and doing something and recording while we're doing it coming up. And we're excited to do it. It'll be fun. Whether it works out or not, it'll be fun to do.
Yeah, and all 2 of us who listen, Kevin and I, will enjoy it.
Yeah.
So there you go. So go out and, if you can, if you're interested, find these podcasts, find other podcasts, because there's some other really good ones.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot.
There's so many out there. But find them, listen to them, find something you enjoy, find anything you enjoy.
Yeah.
And listen to our podcast too.
Yay.
That'd be great. Add it to your rotation.
Yeah.
So, all right. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it.
Sweet dreams.
Oh, thanks.
See you next time.
Goodbye.